You've had blood work done, maybe more than once this year, and nobody showed you a single number about the health of your brain. That's not because those numbers don't exist. It's because nobody ordered them.
Here's something that most people don't know and that changes how you think about everything we've covered in this series. Blood-based biomarkers for cognitive decline and neurodegeneration now exist. They can detect changes in the brain that precede symptoms by up to 15 to 20 years. They're available through standard laboratory testing, and in most cases, your doctor has never mentioned them. Not because they don't work, because they're not part of the standard protocol. A 2026 review published by the Davos Alzheimer's Collaborative confirmed that blood-based tests can now detect amyloid and tau protein accumulation in the brain, the changes most strongly associated with Alzheimer's disease, long before any cognitive symptoms appear. The researchers described early predictive diagnostic tests as potentially transformative, particularly when combined with the modifiable lifestyle factors we've been covering in this series. In other words, the window to act is not after the symptoms arrive, it's right now, while the numbers are still changeable, while the biology is still responding. My name is Dr. Nathan Cole. This is Hidden Health Protocol. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly which tests reveal the true state of your brain, what they measure, what the numbers mean, and what to do if yours aren't where they should be.
Let me start with the standard blood panel, because understanding what it misses is the foundation of everything else in this video. When you go for your annual physical and get blood work done, your doctor is typically running a metabolic panel, a complete blood count, cholesterol, thyroid, blood sugar, and maybe a few other markers, depending on your age and history. These are useful tests. They catch a lot of important things, but none of them tell you anything specific about what's happening inside your brain. Your cholesterol panel doesn't tell you whether amyloid is accumulating in your neural tissue. Your blood sugar result doesn't tell you whether your hippocampus is maintaining its volume. Your TSH result doesn't tell you whether your neurons are producing enough BDNF to sustain their connections. The standard panel was designed to catch acute disease, infections, metabolic crises, organ failure. It was not designed as a proactive tool for tracking the slow, decades-long biological process of cognitive aging. And here's what makes this gap so consequential. The biological changes that lead to cognitive decline begin silently at the molecular level, 15 to 20 years before the first symptom appears. By the time you notice the problem, the word retrieval slowing, the memory gaps, the processing speed dropping, the underlying process has been running for a long time. The tests I'm about to show you are designed to catch that process early, while the window is still open, while the biology is still responding to the inputs we've been covering throughout this series.
There are 5 markers I want to walk you through. Each one measures a different dimension of cognitive health. Together, they give you a picture of your brain's biological state that no standard panel can provide. Marker 1, homocysteine. Homocysteine is an amino acid that builds up in the blood when your body isn't metabolizing B vitamins efficiently, particularly B6, B9, and B12. Why does it matter for brain health? Because elevated homocysteine is directly toxic to neurons. It damages the blood vessels that supply the brain with oxygen and nutrients. It accelerates the cortical thinning and hippocampal shrinkage we covered earlier in this series. And it is one of the strongest independent predictors of cognitive decline and brain atrophy in the peer-reviewed literature. A meta-analysis of over 77 studies found that every 5-unit increase in homocysteine was associated with a measurable increase in cognitive decline risk. The target? Below 10 micromoles per liter. Most labs consider anything under 15 normal. The difference between 10 and 15 is where early silent damage accumulates. Ask for it by name. It is a standard, inexpensive blood test. Most doctors simply don't order it routinely. Marker 2, high sensitivity CRP. We've covered this marker in both the inflammaging and brain fog videos, but it deserves to be repeated here in the context of brain health specifically. High sensitivity CRP is the most accessible proxy for the chronic low-grade inflammation that crosses the blood-brain barrier and drives neuroinflammation. Every point of elevation above 1 milligram per liter is associated with measurable acceleration in cognitive aging. The standard CRP test, the one most panels run, is calibrated for acute infections. It misses the low-level chronic inflammation entirely. You need the high-sensitivity version specifically. Same blood draw, different assay, dramatically different information. Target, below 1 milligram per liter. Most labs flag normal at below 10. The difference is the difference between catching silent neuroinflammation early and missing it entirely. Marker 3, fasting insulin. Your brain runs almost entirely on glucose, but when insulin resistance develops, when your cells stop responding efficiently to insulin's signal, the brain's glucose delivery system becomes impaired. Neurons in the insulin-resistant brain receive less fuel, they fire less efficiently, they maintain synaptic connections with less reliability. The condition has been given a name in the research, type 3 diabetes, and it's now considered one of the primary metabolic drivers of Alzheimer's disease. Fasting insulin reveals insulin resistance years before it shows up on a standard fasting glucose or HbA1c test, because insulin rises to compensate for resistance long before glucose levels begin to climb. Fasting below 8 microunits per milliliter. Most labs consider anything under 25 normal. If yours is between 8 and 25 and you're experiencing any of the cognitive symptoms we've covered in this series, insulin resistance may already be affecting your brain function. Marker 4, vitamin D. Vitamin D is not just a bone health nutrient. Vitamin D receptors are distributed throughout the brain, in the hippocampus, the prefrontal cortex, and the cerebellum. And research has consistently linked vitamin D insufficiency to accelerated cognitive decline, higher dementia risk, and reduced neuroplasticity. A 2023 meta-analysis of over 300,000 participants found that individuals with vitamin D levels below 25 nanomoles per liter had a significantly higher risk of dementia than those with optimal levels. Target for cognitive health, between 60 and 80 nanomoles per liter. Most labs flag deficiency below 20. The cognitive protection in the research starts much higher than the deficiency threshold. And finally, marker 5, omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, is the primary structural fat in the brain. Approximately 60% of the brain's dry weight is fat, and DHA is its most critical building block. It supports neuron membrane fluidity, enables efficient synaptic transmission, and has direct anti-inflammatory effects in neural tissue. The omega-6 to omega-3 ratio tells you whether your diet is providing the raw materials your brain needs to maintain and repair itself. A ratio above 10 to 1 is consistently associated with pro-inflammatory status and reduced cognitive performance. Most adults in Western countries sit between 15 and 20 to 1. This is a specialty test, not part of a standard panel, but it's increasingly available through functional medicine labs and direct-to-consumer testing services. Target, below 4 to 1. Achievable through consistent consumption of cold water fatty fish, salmon, sardines, and mackerel, and reduction of seed oils high in omega-6 linoleic acid.
Now, I want to tell you about a category of tests that most people, including most primary care physicians, don't know exists yet. Blood-based Alzheimer's biomarkers. Until very recently, detecting amyloid plaques and tau tangles, the proteins most strongly associated with Alzheimer's disease, required either a lumbar puncture or a PET scan. Invasive, expensive, and almost never done until symptoms were already significant. That has changed. A new generation of blood tests can now measure two specific markers, the amyloid beta 42 to 40 ratio, which reflects amyloid accumulation in the brain, and phosphorylated tau, or p-tau 181 and p-tau 217, which reflect tau pathology characteristic of Alzheimer's biology. Research presented at the Davos Alzheimer's Collaborative in 2026 confirmed that these blood tests can detect pathological changes in the brain up to 15 to 20 years before symptoms appear.
They are not yet part of standard screening protocols, but they are available through functional medicine physicians and an increasing number of specialty labs right now. Why does this matter for someone in their 40s or 50s with no symptoms? Because the research shows that the biological interventions we've covered throughout this series, reducing inflammation, restoring gut health, improving sleep architecture, maintaining cardiovascular fitness, are most effective when the amyloid and tau burden is still low. The window for lifestyle-based prevention is widest precisely when you feel fine. Knowing your numbers early is not alarmist, it's strategic.
So you've ordered the tests, the results come back. Now what? First, context matters. No single marker tells the whole story. What you're looking for is a pattern. If your homocysteine is elevated and your hs-CRP is high and your fasting insulin is above 8, those three numbers together paint a specific picture, one that points toward the gut, the diet, the sleep, and the inflammatory load we've been covering across both clusters. Second, these numbers are not fixed. Every marker I've covered today is modifiable through lifestyle. Homocysteine responds to B vitamins through food, leafy greens, legumes, eggs, fatty fish. hs-CRP responds to gut health, fiber diversity, sleep consistency, and the removal of ultra-processed food. Fasting insulin responds to reduced refined carbohydrates, increased fiber, and regular cardiovascular exercise. Vitamin D responds to sun exposure and dietary sources. Omega ratio responds to fish intake and seed oil reduction. The biology is not a verdict. It's a report card, and report cards exist to show you what to work on, not to define what's possible. Third, bring these tests to your doctor, not as a challenge, as information. A physician who understands functional medicine and proactive longevity will know exactly what to do with these numbers. If yours doesn't, that conversation itself is valuable data about whether you need a different kind of healthcare relationship. Let me bring this together and close out everything we've built across this cluster. Your brain starts losing volume in your mid-30s. Brain fog is not stress, it's neuroinflammation, gut-brain axis disruption, and mitochondrial dysfunction in neurons. Some people reach 80 with the brain of a 50-year-old, and the research shows exactly why and how. And now we know that the biological changes driving cognitive decline can be detected in the blood years before the first symptom appears. The 5 markers, homocysteine, hs-CRP, fasting insulin, vitamin D, and the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio give you a clear, actionable picture of your brain's biological state right now. None of them are exotic. None of them require special procedures. They require only that you ask for them specifically. The window is open. The biology is still responding. The tools exist. What's been missing until now is the information. I've left a link in the description.